This is just a bit of pettiness from last summer. My family owns a few acres that is in between a state park, a river, and a road. The road runs north-south, however, at one area the road curves 90 degrees to go east-west, so there's a small 0.25-acre triangle that we own, but isn't part of our fenced, manicured area. And since it used to be a logging area, has a bunch of old stumps and is mostly treeless. Last summer, I decided to camp there with my boys in our van and start the process of clearing some stumps and generally making it better. I was completely surprised when I arrived, and the whole thing had been fenced off with a brand new gate. I called my brother-in-law. He didn't know anything about it, as the triangle area is significantly past where we normally drive into the property, and so I pulled out my grinder. Yes, I camp with a grinder when I'm planning on clearing land, and just cut the chain. The gate was a nice rolling gate, and the fencing was well done. I assumed hanging out on the land all weekend would garner someone's attention, but I was disappointed. We only managed to burn one large stump, but enjoyed our time. When I came back the next weekend, the lock was back on the fence, and there was a big "No trespassers, no fires, no camping" sign. That's cool. It even had a phone number to report trespassers. I called the number and got voicemail to a name I got the name Sam Hudson from the voicemail, but I didn't bother leaving a message, so I just cut the lock and continued on my slow but deliberate land clearing. My boys rode the dirt bikes, we made some new tracks and jumps, and were kinda rowdy. I was hoping for an altercation, but alas, nothing happened. I did get an idea, though, looking at the sign, and decided since the phone number was a local one and pretty similar to my own phone number, I would have a bit of fun. I took a couple measurements and pictures, and when I got to the property the next weekend, I wasn't surprised to see a trail camera and a new lock. Oh well, I used my grinder and cut the lock, and then lifted my shirt and rubbed my nipples at the trail camera. Might as well give them a show. Then I took a heat gun and removed the second half of the phone number and replaced it with my own cell phone's number. I mean, the sign was decently built, like the fencing. Whoever was doing this was doing a really good job. Much to my luck, within an hour, some huffy Karen shows up walking her dog along the state park path and crossed the road to look at my van. I could see her from the river where we were hanging out as she started taking pictures of my van with her phone. I figured I would go over and talk to her. As I was walking over to her, I waved friendly and asked if she had a problem. She got all angry and told me she was going to call the cops because I was trespassing. And I assured her that was fine with me if she called the cops, but I mentioned that the land was in fact mine and had been for decades, so if anyone was going to get in trouble for trespassing, it would be her. It was clear she wasn't the person who had put up the gate or fence, because she didn't say anything about the third cut lock, but she got all huffy and said the property didn't belong to me, and she was going to call the owner to report me. Indeed, a few moments later, she stomped over to the sign and dialed the number. The look on her face when my phone rang and I answered it. She was so pissed off, I really thought she was going to have a heart attack. I politely answered and greeted her through the phone, though since I was less than 10 feet away, she knew it was me. She was so confused how this could have happened. Changing the phone number on a sign isn't that hard, that she stormed away without confronting me further. 30 minutes later, though, a man in an Escalade drove up, with her sitting smugly beside him in the passenger seat. He looked at the sign's phone number with a bit of bemusement and then got out of the car. He introduced himself as Sam Hudson, obviously changed his name because he is actually a super decent person, it turns out, and asked who I was. I told him my name, and he immediately recognized my last name, which happens to be on a huge sign up the road. I pulled up the county maps on my phone, because I had already done some research trying to figure out who he was after I called his number and got his name off voicemail,
and showed him that my little triangle, while adjacent to his land and cut off by the curving road, was in fact mine and not part of his parcel. The look on Karen's face as she faded from triumphant smugness to disbelief was priceless. Sam, for his part, was confused and said he would just have to research it, but was completely polite. He pointed to the sign and asked if that was my number, which I assured him it was. He took it down in his phone and just said he would be in touch. He didn't try locking the gate again or ask me to leave until he confirmed things, just wished me a good day and left.
I got a call from him a couple hours later asking if he could take me and my boys out to eat. I said that would be fine so long as Karen didn't come. He said she is his sister-in-law and he was happy to leave her behind. We made arrangements to meet at a little cafe in the state park, and we arrived a while later. Sam explained that he had just purchased the parcel about 6 months earlier, and his realtor had assured him that Triangle was his. He, like me, had planned on turning the Triangle into a family camping spot, mostly because he couldn't stand it when his sister-in-law came to visit. He was planning on building a large house and wanted somewhere else to put her. Also, my Triangle was the only access to about half of his parcel without cutting a huge road through the county road allowance. He asked if there was any way he could buy a strip of my land or pay for an easement. I said I would think about it, as I had been planning on making a dirt biking camping spot for my boys where they could be a bit more wild, light fires, etc. And he said none of that bugged him, but it would save him $100,000 or more to use my land versus building a road through the county road allowance. I could tell that I really liked this guy already, so I said I would think about it. A week later, I had a rough agreement. He would pay for a paved road along one side of my land and pay for the county bridge over the river. I only lost about 20 feet of land in a big strip and gained access to about 30 feet of riverfront, a large year-round stream that we never could have driven to because I wasn't going to pay for the bridge. We would swim and picnic there, but it was the only non-logged area of the land and quite pretty. And I added the exclusion that his sister-in-law specifically wasn't allowed walking along the road. She had to drive in and out, but she wasn't allowed stopping on the easement or walking her dog off their property to the state park along the driveway. I know I'm petty, and my lawyer assured me that it wouldn't hold up in court at all, but I put it in anyhow. So I gained a nice fence, gate, and bridge, which would have cost me $20-30 easily, and access to the best part of my land for camping, and an awesome neighbor, and I got to be petty at the same time. Win, win, win. I never bothered learned Karen's name, but I have only seen her once since, and she refused to respond when I called out to her and waved.